University of Illinois Extension.
Wilderness Wednesday series. And so we have Eliana Brown with us, and she is the water quality and stormwater specialist for the University of Illinois Extension. And she also works with the Illinois Indiana Sea Grant. And you can tell a little bit about that if you want to. And she's going to talk about reducing water pollution and using native plants to improve your local water quality and how that works into rain gardens and that type of thing. So without any further, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to shut my mic off. I will be checking any chats that come in or any questions, and we're going to hold them all to the end, and then we're going to let her answer those up. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for that nice introduction, Holly. And thank you all so much for attending tonight and having me speak. I will go ahead and say a word about Illinois Indiana Sea Grant since you keyed that up really nicely. Illinois Indiana Sea Grant is one of 24 of the Sea Grant programs within the United States, which does include Puerto Rico and Guam. We also have, I'm not going to name them all, but Alaska and Hawaii are also part of our family. We are all part of land grant institutions, and we work much with our land counterparts, and I'm a little bit of both, to help with preserving our water resources for our industry and for our citizens for the good of everyone. It's a really great organization, and I'm so glad to be a part of it. And I'm really glad to be a part of U of I Extension as well. It's a great organization. I've been with Extension for the last 10 years. For that, I worked for a different part of the university, and I'm just really honored to be able to come speak to all of you about this topic. So with that, we have a little assignment, working for a university, you get a little bit of already an assignment. So I want you to, don't tell me yet. Well, I'll cue you in later on in the presentation. I want you to think of your favorite Illinois natural area. This one's mine. And just have it in your head and think about what you love about it. And Illinois is a key word here, so it has to be in Illinois. And just have that in your head. All right. Main things we are going to talk about, though, are a little introduction to stormwater, a little rain garden 101. I'm going to talk about a project that I have the privilege to get to work with, and that's the Red Oak Rain Garden. Then I'm going to give you some rain garden resources. So what is stormwater? Rainwater snowmelt that runs across the land instead of soaking into the ground. It can pick up pollutants as it runs across surfaces. Now, I know we've been having a lot of rain lately, but of course we can equally have snow. And oftentimes this is the time of year when we can really see the kind of pollution that stormwater can pick up. Most of the time of the year, you're not going to see what happen or the kinds of things that are on the land that stormwater is going to carry off. But this is the time of year that you might be able to see it. This is a photo I took last year, I think. And we've all seen kind of dark snow. So what that indicates is that, some things I think we kind of know about, which is that a lot of our roadways from things that we have in our, that come out of our cars and things are just running off the ground, they can be kind of dirty. Some of it is just sediment, which is just soil. And some of it's just, little oils that leak out of cars. It's pretty normal, but it is usually not something that we really see and visualize, but that of course is what it looks like. And the reason that that's important is because of that. Let's see if I can get my cursor in there. That little thing right in there. That's a storm drain. And the storm drain goes to our storm system, and that leads to our lakes and rivers untreated. Another really important concept on stormwater is impermeable surfaces. What are those? Those are our hard surfaces like our parking lots, like you see here, concrete, roofs, roads, and it doesn't allow water to soak in, forcing it to run off. Now, our counterpart to that is our permeable surfaces. which does allow water to soak in. And that is vegetation and green infrastructure, which I'm going to talk about a little later in the talk. This picture that you see on the right, there's some rain gardens that are coming off of this park. And you see these little curb cuts here that allow that water to flow in there where it can soak in. There also are some permeable pavements that you may see in parking lots. Maybe you've heard about those kinds of things. That's all part of green infrastructure. Last concept to talk about right here in our beginning here is a watershed. And I don't know if you've heard that term, that it is an area of land that drains to a body of water like a lake, stream, or wetland. Let's see, for some reason, I've now clicked and annotate, not meaning to do that, so I will stop that. You can find your watershed from this website here. And Holly, I'm going to give you all the links. I'll email that after, and then you can email it to the participants so they can have all of that. There also is this really fun website here, this River Runner website that allows you to be a drop of water. And you know what? I have actually, see, I went ahead and put in Holly's address to the extension building into that first website. And that's where that location is. And we can see the watershed that it's all the land that is contributing to this river here. If I go back one slide, just want to say that watersheds, when I say here, your watershed is our watershed, because we have all these different watersheds in the state of Illinois. They don't care about our county lines. It's all about topography. Almost everything that we have in the state of Illinois, except for a little sliver along Lake Michigan, goes to the Mississippi River. I'm going to kind of take us out of here and actually take us to the River Runner site. It is a lot of fun, especially since we have a very young person on our webinar here. I think you might like this the most. I like it. It's a lot of fun. If you put in whatever address into that River Runner site, it will show you it. You're a drop of water. It will show you the path of that drop of water as it either goes to the Gulf of Mexico, or, well, everything that's in the Midwest is going to the Gulf of Mexico, or either
necessarily
oceans. And somebody, if folks can mute themselves, that'd be really helpful for me. Thank you. So, so in this particular one, we have, again, from Holly's site, you have the, there is a little bit of motion that goes on this. So I just want to prepare folks, if that's the kind of thing that doesn't work for you, I'll let you know when it's over. But if we start here and you're a drop of water, you kind of fly over the land and it takes that path where you can see on the right-hand side here, we've gone from Soldier Creek to the Kankakee River. You're going to end up going to the Illinois River and then into the Mississippi River. That's a little bit of a long stretch, so we won't go the full journey of this, but this gives you a little bit of the idea of how a watershed works, and then how it is going from that one place on the land and then ends up into
Heather Fiala
the
again.
river in the Gulf of Mexico.
Who she is?
Take us back over.
Lynn Fiala's sister-in-law.
Stop my share for 1 second so I can get me back into here. Hold on, I actually am going to see. Let's see, there we go. Oh, one thing I'm going to do real quick.
I can just ask everybody who is not the speaker to please mute your microphone. There's an awful lot of back chatter going on. Thank you.
I think I used some of my host powers and muted some, so I think we should be good. See, I told you it was going to go to my head. Here we are. Okay, so bringing us back in here to where we were. The reason that watersheds are important because we want to be thinking about that what we're doing on the land has an impact on those streams and lakes. And it's important to know what your land use practices are so you know where those receiving streams are, so you know what you're impacting by actions. One thing to kind of keep in mind is that back in the early 1800s, these were the land use practices that were in the state of Illinois. And in Illinois, what the dark green was forest, a lot of forest land, and this sort of manila color, kind of yellow color, or beige color, I should say, that was prairie. And in the prairie, we normally have our native plants. Of course, our forests also have native plants. But where we have shifted and to our present day is this map. And in this map, the pink is city and the yellow is agriculture. And I just want to kind of like put a note on that. In my mind, nothing is really good or bad. It's a reality. And we have done really, really well in the state of Illinois by growing our population, having a really strong state that has a robust agriculture industry. And we do this really well here in our state. And that has made us, I think, a really successful state, and for very good reasons. Thing I'm going to kind of keep in mind is that by shifting those land practices, that these are the native plants and the prairie plants, what we have lost, and keeping that in mind is that we can see it really well with the roots. I focus mostly on urban areas, and so we have a lot of turf grass in the urban areas. My yard has turf grass as well. All my neighbors, we all have turf grass. It's kind of, when I bought the house, there was a lot of turf grass here. Nothing really inherently wrong with turf grass. The thing is about turf grass is that it has really, really short roots. And we can see that what used to be in our pre-development Illinois was plants that have really long roots. What I've learned from USDA scientists is that these long roots make it a good place for mycorrhizal.
Yeah, that's the thing about native plants that's different. They have really, really long root system.
So the root system
If there's
allow
political
for
plants.
mycorrhizal growth, which is kind of like forms kind of a natural glue that holds the soil together, which allows for channels to form in the soil. And that is what allows our soils, our healthy soils from that are in the native plant areas to act like a sponge. It allows it to really soak up water. So kind of the issue then is that when we have less plants that allow us to soak in, and we have hard surfaces, two things kind of happen. So this is what it was pre-development, what it would look like when it rains and in a stream. You have this nice little meandering rain, a little gentle rain, and the stream flow isn't going to go that much higher. So the stream handles it really well. But when we have a stormwater system where you have a lot of rain that's coming in from all of our surfaces, then in post-development, what is with a lot of our cities, then it gets hit a lot harder. And by it getting hit a lot harder, what that really means is that the banks of a stream are going to scour, and it can look something like this. This is a photo that I took about 15 years ago in Boneyard.
Yeah, I did
It doesn't look
the wrong
like it
thing.
anymore,
So,
but that's the scouring that.
Lana? Oh,
Um,
that's my favorite.
Hey, folks, if you can mute yourself and put your comments in the chat, that will really help me. Thank you. I appreciate it. So that changes the geomorphology, and it makes it not as easy for the aquatic life there to thrive. Okay, now I'm gonna promise you this is the last of the issue slides. Everything that's after this is all the things that we can do and much, much better news. But this is the map that shows our impaired Illinois waterways. And we have about 1,200 miles of stream in the state of Illinois that are impaired and 40,000 acres of lakes. So you all are around in here. Boneyard Creek that I just showed you is right in here, one of our red ones as well. Now this is only due to urban stormwater, but so it makes sense that it's in our populated areas. And we have a little bit of work to do to make our urban streams better. There is a lot that we can do. So although I'm focusing on urban, of course, my extension colleagues work in the agricultural area quite a bit. So I want to say there's lots that can be done there as well to make sure that they're doing their part for water quality, and all of us are doing that live in town are doing our part for water quality too. So in ag, they have these great conservation practices, and those are listed here. In urban areas, we have green stormwater infrastructure. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but we're going to talk mostly about rain gardens and native plants and their role in it. So these are some of the green stormwater infrastructure practices. The picture on the right is a bioswale permeable pavement. I mentioned that a little bit at the beginning. That is really cool technology that allows for us to still be able to park and drive on pavements, but they soak in rain. Some people call them thirsty pavements. I've heard porous pavements, a lot of different words and ways, but that's to talk about it. But that's essentially what they do. And then green roofs. That is a layer of vegetation that is on top of a building. What they all have in common is that they mimic ecological functions of a natural landscape. So the thing that we're thinking of doing is slowing down water's path. So slowing down that path and using the rain where it falls, that gets us back to that pre-development state, that nice green line, so that we don't have that scouring of the stream. And while we're still able to have our way of life and things that serve us really well in our towns and cities. Okay. So focusing here on rain gardens. One thing, there we go. Here's the definition of a rain garden. Many of you have probably heard of rain gardens. They're shallow basins. This is the side view of one. It captures stormwater runoff. And with this carefully selected plants and mulch and good soils, it mimics that ecological function I was just talking about, so that we can capture, filter, treat, infiltrate, and transpire stormwater. It helps us for flooding and it improves water quality. Okay, it is telling me that my screen sharing is paused. I'm not sure what folks are seeing right now. So I'm going to stop it real quick and reshare and make sure that it's going as it's supposed to. Okay. Hopefully it should be a lot better now. Okay, so here again is that side view of a rain garden. Mention that we are capturing rainwater. So there's the rainwater runoff through just, the first law of stormwater management is that water goes downhill. So we want to have the rain garden so that the water that you want to be going to it is heading towards it. And then with those really great plants that help build up the soil, it soaks into the ground. Pretty simple, but really key to make sure that this is kept in mind when people are designing and building rain gardens. They're also really nice for dogs to walk past. I'm kind of kidding. You don't have to have a dog, but dogs do seem to like them. We have 3 different zones of a rain garden. This first one here on the edge is the banks, and you can imagine that with the rain that's coming in, it's going to pool here. So the banks are going to stay drier. So the plants that can be out here are plants that don't need as much water. A plant that's going to be in the slope, that is going to stay wet longer. So the plants that are going to thrive there are ones that can have longer periods of inundation and be happy with it and want that. And then of course, the wettest area in the basin, those are plants that need to be able to tolerate and really thrive in times where they have their feet wet a lot more. They also need to tolerate some times where it's dry because as you might know, we have had some periods of drought in the state of Illinois. So that is something that always needs to be kept in mind, even with a rain garden. But we do have a lot of native plants that can do both. So I'm going to now shift to talk about the red oak rain garden, and I'm going to take it back one slide again to show you that basin, you know, that topography that I've mentioned, kind of drilling that home there. And then I hope you can kind of see that in this photo, that this is the portion that is the basin. These are our slopes. The bank is a little bit out of the picture here, but one of the things that the design of the rain garden does, the red oak rain garden does really well, is demarcate those lines where you have those different areas, where you have the different plants. We did this on purpose to make it really obvious. So these sedges up here are a little bit shorter. And this line is a pretty obvious line where then you're having irises and cardinal flower and some common rush in here. Then up on this other side on the banks is rose and geranium. So you have these nice, you can really see it. This is an educational rain garden, so we wanted to make that really obvious to folks. This is a project that I am really honored to get to serve as a director of. It is and just want to also give a big nod to my team that started the renovation. This young guy here in front, put my cursor on him, his name is Lane Kanoki. He still works with me. Others have gone on to some other employment, but Lane works with me in Extension. He's a super talented landscape designer, and he is an outreach associate with us. So a few fun facts. The Red Oak Rain Garden is a 10,000 square foot demonstration site that's on the U of I campus. It captures our rainwater, it reduces sidewalk flooding, provides wildlife habitat, and educates campus and community about sustainable landscape design. It was originally built in 2006, and several years later, it was in need of a renovation. And so we do have the collaboration and help and partnership with the Champaign County Master Gardeners and East Central Illinois Master Naturalists and our students who installed more than 9,000 plants. If you happen to visit the U of I campus, just want to show you where it is located. This is McKinley Health Center in Allen Hall. This is Lincoln Avenue, and this is where the campus ends here. But if you do come to campus sometime, please email me. We give a lot of tours, and we would love to host you all for a tour. So this is what things looked like in 2006 before the original garden was built. This is the flooding that would happen over the sidewalks. And this water that was pooling here was causing some ill effects on this red oak. The red oak doesn't like to have wet feet. There is a detention pond here that is, in this photo, is, you can just see it beyond these trees. But this detention pond, when it was built, the fill dirt went over here. And this was in the 90s, I believe. And As some of you may know, when you have construction soil that comes onto an area, it's oftentimes compacted. And compacted soil is the opposite of those soils that you have where you have those channels that I spoke about earlier. With compacted soils, it's basically acting like a clay pot. And so what do you get when you put water in a clay pot? You get standing water. And that is really what we had here. That was a big issue, especially with this, this sidewalk flooding. The route for a lot of people to walk into campus is along that sidewalk, and people would walk across there and get their feet wet. Never a pleasant thing. If you are a person that's in a wheelchair and you're coming across here, and we are, the University of Illinois campus is one of the best campuses in the country for people that are in wheelchairs. But if you're rolling across there, your hands are wet. It's really unpleasant. And so the original garden was built, and it stopped this. It gave this water a place to go. I'm not going to talk about the too much about the renovation that happened. If you go on the website, and I will provide that web link, there's some links to other talks that myself and Lane have given where we go into a lot of detail about all that we did with the renovation and the things that we looked at that hadn't worked for the first time around. But I did want to show you this picture because it is a really good example of the number of holes that we drilled. We drilled about 9,000 holes. This was our whole drilling team. And if you're ever going to be doing a project of this size, using a Milwaukee drill with an auger, and even if I know a lot of people use that for planting tulips in the fall too. I highly recommend that using that way of doing it. It worked really well. A lot of holes were dug, and we had incredible help from our master gardeners and master naturalists and our students who are working side by side. I'm a really big believer in intergenerational service learning, and people had a really great time working together, coming together, working together, and putting this garden together. And some other photos of that. We have really been fortunate to have these groups continue with us, because even though our garden was designed with maintenance in mind, all gardens require care, and we work together to train them, and they help train other community members and students to work in the garden. And we get really excited about our tree. So I mentioned designing with maintenance in mind. I'm just going to pour on a lot of praise to Thomas Rayner and Claudia West, who wrote this incredible book, Planting in a Post-Wild World. This book lays out in the best way that I've ever seen how a home gardener or a municipal project can work with native plants and take a little bit of nature and put it in a designed space that works. And so now I'm going to share those tricks and tips with you. This is how we built the Red Oak Rain Garden, how we designed it. And I can't not recommend a book higher than this one. It's just a fantastic resource for creating these ecological gardens that are also really beautiful, so people love them. Our first layer, so it's all done in layers. Our first layer is the ground cover layer, and that helps us to form a green mulch. So green mulch, we do use wood mulch upon establishment, but the whole idea with green mulch is that you are using the plants themselves to shade out weeds, and it does a lot of other really good things, but because we are using so many of them, it is about 60 to 70% of garden planting. More plants, the more plants, the better, I say. They're typically the shortest plants in the garden, and they fill in, they mature, they protect from soil erosion, and they are also really helpful for our overwintering pollinators. This is what the ground cover layer looked like by our sycamore tree the first year, since probably was 2020. Thing I want to point out here, I showed you all of those holes that we dug. So in each one of them, of course, is a plant. So as our volunteers were starting to learn the difference between what a native plant just coming out of the ground looks like, sometimes they don't look that different than weeds. It was really made very obvious because of this grid that if it wasn't in the grid, then it was a weed. You pick that one out. We did have wood mulch in here as well, but there's always that to be done. Of course, by the next couple of years, it really filled into this wonderful thick mat of ground cover layer, and does a phenomenal job of weed suppression. And plus, it's just for me, for my eyes, that's really beautiful. I hope you find it beautiful too. Wild ginger is another really great ground cover that's under a tree, and this alum prairie root is also a fantastic ground cover that has worked really well for us in some of the more sunny locations. Here's our list of all of our ground cover species. You can see, I'll just give you a little bit of time to take a look at that. These are also all on our Red Oak Wing Garden website, where we have a description of every one of our plants. You may be familiar with some of these, some of them you may not be as familiar with, but I can guarantee you each one of these plays a really essential role in the success of our garden and the home gardens that we have been advising as well. And couple that I'll just kind of mention, Pennsylvania sedge is one that I think works in a lot of shady areas, especially if you happen to have trees where you can't get grass to grow. Pin sedge only gets to be about 1 foot tall. So, and it flops over. So it's still pretty short and can have some of that same sort of look as just a normal grass, but it's not messy like a turf grass that isn't cut would look like. And it grows under a tree. It can be hard to get a normal turf grass to grow under a tree, but pin sedge, that's where it wants to be. That's its ecological niche, and it works really well there. I think it's really important to let plants be what they want to be and where they want to be. So we really try to work with that. Working with nature is going to be a whole lot easier than working against it. I'm going to move on to the structural layer. That's the backbone of the garden, and that's going to be about 10–15% of a garden. They're larger plants. I mean, they're structural. That is what that's their purpose. They're going to provide that kind of design structure so that a person just looking at the garden can see it makes some sense, if that makes sense to you. So shrubs, trees, tall forbs, grasses, and you use fewer of them because they're going to make an impact. And here are some examples of them. So this is a red chokeberry. So right now, in about a couple of weeks, 2 weeks, Valentine's Day last year, we saw robins that were eating on the berries here. So it was really amazing and wonderful to be able to welcome the robins back and provide them with this incredible food source. And when it does snow, the red berries just look incredible against the snow. Here's a forb, the compass plant, and this is another shot of the chokeberry, but in the fall. Here's our list of structural plants. And I mentioned a little bit here, this point at the bottom with this 4-season interest. the seasonal layer is a really important layer. Now, I gotta say something about seasonal layer. I'm gonna just go ahead and pop over to the photos of these. So when I first used to go to native plant sales, these were always the ones that I'd see and I'd want to buy a lot of them. And I did. And I sometimes really wouldn't exactly even know what to do with them all. I am now a certified master gardener. At the time, I wasn't a master gardener. I just thought that they were all gorgeous because they are really gorgeous. Seasonal plants are the ones that we really think of, or at least I always thought of when I thought of as native plants. But there, if you're doing the math on our percent of our garden, there you're only really going to need about, there should only be about 20% of the garden, 15-20% of the garden, depending on your percentages of your ground cover and structural. They really do need that ground cover layer in order for these to make sense and for this to be a little bit more of a successful garden that a home gardener who a hypothetical home gardener myself who has a full-time job that also is needing to take care of a garden. This is really the secret, though, is to select ones that are filling the needs for showing like, okay, this is a prairie, and so I want to have this iconic plant that's showing that this is a prairie, so I'm going to choose this orange coneflower, this black-eyed Susan. Or I really want to support monarch butterflies, and so I'm going to have this butterfly weed that's going to have the incredible leaves that the monarch caterpillar is going to be able to chew on and survive and do a really good job with. That is to be really selective in choosing those. But when you do that, you can have some really good success with it. These are the ones that we have chosen to have in the Red Oak Rain Garden. Each and every one of them was very carefully considered and packs an incredible punch and is just, I mean, they're all showstoppers. That's just the best way that I can say it. They're not only beautiful, though, they each provide the ecological benefits for wildlife that are really important. They do a lot to earn a spot here. The last type I'm going to talk about are ephemerals, because ephemerals are so incredibly important. I was speaking a little bit about pollinators, and the ephemerals come out in the very, very early spring. And so that is one of the most important times for extending our foraging season for our early pollinators, to be able to support them. There isn't a whole lot of food sources that are available for the pollinators and in our early spring, and ephemerals are fantastic for doing that. They're also really interesting because this layer disappears over the summer months. You just can't see it at all. So that's why it's intermixed with those ground covers to help fill that void. Here are some examples of the ephemerals. Now, if you saw those bluebells that I pointed out that I love so much, that happens. Those bluebells were at Allerton Park, and we mixed some of the stock from the Allerton Park bluebells at the Red Oak Rain Garden so that we would have that connection. And we have mixed them in with these very non-native tulips, the orange tulips, to have an orange and blue. And it is okay to do that. I absolutely love native plants with every fiber of my being. And I also leave a little bit of room for love for some non-natives that provide, that earn a spot in our garden too. Here are some other really, really great plants to mention. Shooting star and wild hyacinth are ones that I learned about from working with this garden, working with the designers, and I just have grown to love them so much. So here's the ones that we have. Of course, our Jack in the Pulpit here on the right. Okay. this is what the designers came up with for the garden. And this is our planting plan. The only thing I want to mention about this is that this is where the red oak tree is. This is where the sycamore tree is. And then this cell over here gets a like full sun. It is what we call our prairie cell. And we have 7 different biomes in the garden. And this is that sycamore. So I just kind of want to point that out, point a couple of things out here. You probably see that basin again. This is after a rainstorm, so it's when it's doing its thing. Here's been in 2020 where we still could see a lot of things hadn't filled in so completely yet. But we have, it has that precedent of being out in the woods with a tree. These are all plants that you could find out in the woods. This is where the plants that you would find, we call it like the wet mesic areas and wet mesic areas and all these various different biomes that would be analogous to things that we see out in nature. And this is that prairie cell. It has those hot prairie colors and different plants that can be out there. So at this point, I'm going to kind of return to that, that favorite natural space that I asked you to think about. And then you can put those in the chat. Go ahead and write those in the chat. And as you're doing that, I'm going to come back and take a look at it. All right. Yeah, Morton Arboretum. Okay, good. What other ones? What are some of your other favorite natural places? I'm seeing some woods, some state parks. Well, go ahead and keep adding those to the chat. Here's actually me out in the woods there among my bluebells that I love so much. And you can see how happy I am out there. And I hope that when you go out to your natural spaces, it makes you as happy as I'm sure I look in this photo. And I am really happy. What we learned from our incredible researchers at the University of Illinois, here's Dr. Frances Kuo, who's in our College of ACES and Natural Resources and Environmental Sciences, is that these natural spaces are really good for us. They're good for our heads. They're good for they're good for our mental health, and they even are good for our immune systems. So knowing this, I know that it's really important to get out to the woods, but I work full time, so I can't get out in the woods all the time. And so one of the things that I thought, well, you know, I have a yard. I can bring some of that feeling of the woods to my backyard and plant the mertensia, plant these Virginia bluebells. So that's what I did. Now, master gardeners, I'm going to tell you right now, please don't look at this brick. It was a little bit out of place. That's not the point of the photo. The point of the photo is that you can take the incredible things that you see out in your natural spaces and bring them into your home landscape. And they can go, this is a non-native quince and some some other evergreens back there that are non-native, but the native plants can come in and fit in with what you already have. And they can live really well together and work really well together. And so you can bring some of that joy that you have in those natural spaces to your home. We have those 7 different biomes at the Red Oak Rain Garden. And so we had the idea of, you know what, we can provide information in our brochures to help people to be able to bring a little bit of the woods, the prairie, the Red Oak Rain Garden to your own home landscape. So I will be providing the link to these brochures, but I want to show you them a little bit here, some of our other biomes and the other variations of what it might look like in your own home landscape. So this one in particular is this woodland border garden. And this is what the inside of the brochure looks like. It gives you a planting plan that incredible landscape designer, Wayne Kanoki, that I mentioned earlier, he designed these. You can just plop them into your own home landscape. We do talk, let me come back a page. I do talk a bit about the plants and what they look like over the growing season. This is when they are blooming. So you know when they're going to bloom. We have successional overlapping of the blooms. And then over here are the kind of pollinators and birds, the kinds of benefit that you can get for wildlife and what kinds of areas that they work well in. This is that idea of providing that 4-season interest. So just kind of mark that as something, if you are looking at a brochure, that that it's something to keep in mind. That's been baked into every one of these designs, as if you see like right under here, here is the list of the ground cover species, the seasonal species, and the structural species that are provided in this sample plan. And then the back page has some other variations. And of course, if you want to turn it into a rain garden, how you might do that. This is just a little through the seasons, what it would look like, just to blow it up a little bit. You can see spring, summer, fall, and that winter interest that we like. Another resource that I want to recommend to you is the Southern Lake Michigan Rain Garden Manual. That's really helpful. I have a series of videos I made a couple of years ago called Stormwater at Home that not only has a section on rain gardens, but a residential applications of a lot of different green stormwater infrastructure, including a green roof. There's a couple who put a green roof on top of their house, which was pretty great. Extension does have a relatively new rainfall management page that I encourage you to take a look at, that has some of these ideas and other resources jam-packed with a whole bunch of things. And then if you're interested in learning a lot more about the individual plants, Wayne and I worked with some other collaborators on this website called Illinois Groundwork. There's a section of it called Plant Finder that allows you to go in, talk about, you can select for whatever is the your light, your moisture, whatever kind of attribute that you want. I couldn't all fit on this page, but it's all in there. If you select on that, it gives you the plants that would fit your criteria. Oh, should mention, these are native plants, either all native plants or native Rs, and you can select for that too. We do in Extension have a rainscaping course, and there's I'll say a little bit of that. It's a multiple week training sessions that have educational videos, tours of best practices, and activities, and an opportunity to build a demonstration rain garden as part of that program. And that's the link to find that information. I think I'm running close, almost here at the end of time, so I don't want to, I want to leave a little bit of time for questions, but here's my shameless plug for following the Red Oak Rain Garden on social media. And this is a real, okay, we're at the end, we're almost into February. If you can wait one more month, there is a phenomenal way to learn about native plants that happens in March. We call it Mulch Madness. And with Mulch Madness, we have every one of the Red Oak Rain Garden plants that is a team that you can fill out a bracket, and they go against each other in social media with voting. And we have a prize at the end if you fill out your bracket and have the winning bracket. So I encourage you to do that. And that's it. I should take a look at the chat, or Holly, if you want to guide me into some questions, I'd be happy to take some. But thank you all very much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you.
Okay, Some of the places that people put down as their happy place was Russell Woods and Siloam Springs State Park. Let me see if I can pull up some of the other questions. Oh, some great choices for seeds and shrubs was dnrillinois.gov conservation / forestry / tree - nursery. So that you might want to take a look at that. I was looking at that when you were talking after I saw that come up. I do want to remind everybody that these were being recorded and that they will be on the Kankakee Valley Forest Preserve District's web page. Once we get them all, the recordings all come back and we can put them on there. So if you want to listen to this program again or recommend it to a friend, you'd be able to do that from that website. Looking to see if there's some others. Mostly people are asking about when it will be reposted with the links. They want to know if the links that you talked about would be available for them to look at later. The other concern with flooded sidewalks is that people walk in the grass landscape to get around it, further compacting the soil along the sidewalk and path, which is a problem.
Absolutely. Compaction, there's not, well, it can be really hard to remedy compacted soils. So the best prevention or the best remedy is prevention. And so you're absolutely right. Appreciate that comment a lot.
Okay, wait, I just, my cursor just keeps. Let me see. I talked about where they would be available. There was another one. Check with local forest preserves, soil and water conservation district in your local wild ones chapter for more another suppliers for those. Some counties, I believe, have at Soil and Water Conservation District, if you have a large plot that you're working with, they do have some soil drills and that type of thing for loan. Kankakee does not, but I think some of the other counties that are on us with us tonight do. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. I'm going to be putting in a rain garden from scratch, from total ground up this springtime here at my own home. So, what are some good sources for me to get ideas for getting started?
Great. Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I think and I can go to that slide. This Southern Lake Michigan Rain Garden Manual is a very good resource for giving you a step-by-step of building a rain garden, the things that you need to do for it. One of the first things that I'd recommend that you do at that site, and Holly, maybe you already have done it, is to check the infiltration rate. This is where, so my background is engineering. I hang out with landscape architects, but my background and horticulturalists, but my background is in civil and environmental engineering. And that's kind of that portion of it, like in the soil scientist portion of it. Holly, do you know how to do that? I can tell you a quick tip on how to do that, if that would be helpful.
Sure.
Okay, so an easy way of doing that is you dig a hole about the size of, what used to be, like, you think of like a coffee can size. So you dig that hole and then you put water in it, and you note how long it takes for the water to go down and how many inches that is. And then you do it a couple of times. And actually I can send you a video on that, and everybody else as well, with the link to the video of how to do it step by step. But that's going to let you know whether that site that you have chosen is a good site for a rain garden. For a home landscaper, you want to make sure that your soil isn't compacted, that it allows for that infiltration rate. That's just going to make it a whole lot easier, because you want to have the rain garden to be able to drain within 48 hours. So you don't end up having,
Okay,
having mosquitoes.
yeah. So within 48 hours of me getting the original plants in?
Yeah, so when the plants come in and you have a rain and you have that bit of rain that's hanging out there, so it's gonna hang out there for a little bit. But you want that rain to drain out within 2 days. So checking that soil ahead of time is gonna let you know whether that location has the kind of soil type that's going to best drain.
Okay. All right, that I can, I'm gonna be starting totally from scratch, so it will all be in a new experience for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Let me know how it goes, and if you have any questions during, let me know.
Let me see if there was any more that came in. Yeah, check your soil and water conservation district for spring, fall, and plant sales. I believe Kankakee will be having one in the spring. If I get a flyer, I will, like, I can put it out to everybody that was at the Wilderness Wednesdays, if and when I get a flyer from Soil and Water of the plants that they are going to have. They always have trees and shrubs. I
Mhm.
don't know if they will have much for flowers and grasses and that type of thing, but we can look, we can see.
The thing that, after I learned about, that layering method, when I would go to a native plant sale, after learning that method, it was entirely different, because like I said, when I would go before, I would get really dazzled by all the incredible looking flowers, and then afterwards, my tray would be mostly filled by prairie dropseed or Pennsylvania sedge. And with a few of those other kind of seasonal looking plants, they're seasonal plants. It really made a very big difference in the way that I approached the sale and what I put in my yard. And it helped so much for me to be able to have success with maintaining the native plants in my yard. I also think you look like you know what you're doing when you have a bunch of those plants that aren't as flashy. It's like, that's how it felt to me. I felt like I had really arrived as a native plant gardener that day when that happened.
All right. If anybody else has questions as the evening, like if in an hour when you're getting ready for bed, you think, oh man, I should have asked that. You can either get in touch with me or you can get with Eliana and we will be glad to answer them.